What's up YouTube, Dale here for Zephyr Wargames, and today I am bringing you an update for anti-meta Kashtira. Now thanks to the December 1st ban list, this deck got a massive boost in order to not only counteract the meta but also counteract the rogue matchups as well. It obviously gets incredibly stronger in February when we get the new support, but for now this is how the deck can rock and roll and do incredible damage as it stands. With all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. We're going to dive head first into the profile with the Mac Daddy himself of Triple Fenrir. Now this card is being used and abused as a engine card or like a free piece card because it is that good. During the main phase you can trigger his effect in order to search out another Kashtira monster, including himself. When he declares an attack, you can target one face-up card on the field and banish it. And then if your opponent activates a monster effect, you can target a face-up card on the field and banish it. You can only use either the when effect or the if effect once per turn. Then his brother in arms is Triple Unicorn. So this one has the ability to search you out the Kashtira spells, but right now we only have one Kashtira spell that is worth searching, and that is Triple Birth. Unicorn also has the effect that when either he declares an attack or if your opponent activates a monster effect, you get to look at your opponent's extra deck and banish one monster from it face down. The ability to search Birth is insane because this is what makes this card or this deck absolutely mental, and generally level 7 decks as well. So you get to normal summon specifically a level 7 monster without tribute, which is really cool. If that wasn't enough, during the main phase you can special on one of your banished Kashtira monsters that is not an XYZ or one that is in your graveyard. On top of that, if your opponent activates a spell card or effect and you control a Kashtira monster, you get to target specifically 3 cards in their graveyard and banish them face down, so it will trigger the other XYZ effects as well. So this is incredibly powerful, but the idea is that it has to target 3, so if there aren't 3 it won't be able to trigger. But the fact that you can pretty much, if you go Unicorn, search out Birth, and you've already opened up Fenrir, you activate Birth, normal summon Fenrir, effect, search out Ogre, and then what you do is you can make a rank 7 detach material, use Birth, bring one back. Like, it's crazy good the way that it can recycle like that, and when we get the new support it just gets even more crazy. At the moment, we are also playing Triple Ogre, just for the names. So Ogre, quite like his brothers, will let you search out a Kashtira trap this time. The only trap we play is Preparations, and I'll talk about that in a second. Ogre's effect, when he declares an attack or if your opponent activates a monster effect, he gets to look at the top 5 cards of your opponent's deck, banish one of them face down, and you put the rest back onto the top of the deck in the same order. He can search out Preparations, and Preparations is even more powerful now because of the return of Triple Dimensional Fissure. So, what this one does is during either player's turn, you get to special on one of your Kashtira monsters that is banished or in your hand. Now, obviously, in the past, when they were going to the graveyard a little bit more consistently, it did make it less consistent, but because you're going to be playing a lot of cards that want to be banishing monsters on a maximum basis, this card just gets even stronger. If that wasn't enough, when your opponent activates, or if your opponent activates a trap card or effect, and you control a Kashtira monster, you get to look at your look at their hand and banish one card from it face down. You can only use each effect once per turn, but it's incredibly powerful. So until we get the new support in Photon Hyperdrive, the other card we play is Triple Beast. So this is your main and only normal summon of the deck. On normal summon, it gets to banish a level 7 from the deck, or technically you remove from play one psychic monster from your deck, which is at all level 7s, and then its level becomes the level of the one banished. So again, if you went Unicorn, search out Birth, normal summon Beast. Beast can banish Fenrir or of course Ogre, activate Birth to special summon back that one that was banished off a Beast. You've got a rank 7 play there, Fenrir can search out an Ogre, and you continue to make your plays from that point on. So that's it for the main cards right now. I feel that when we get the new support, Ogre might get dropped down to 2, and Beast may not be used as much. So definitely keep your eyes peeled on those, especially with Beast being like a £15 common, or £15 rare technically. So yeah, keep your eyes out on that. Then for the other cards you play is Triple Astral Karibo. I really like this card. So you reveal a number XYZ in your extra deck. Special summon this card. This card's level becomes equal to that monster's rank. Now, obviously, the one you're going to be revealing more times than not will be your number 89, because this is the one that you want to go into the most. If that wasn't enough, yes, it does lock you into only being able to summon number monsters from the extra deck, but it does give an additional effect to that monster that it cannot be destroyed by battle or card effect. Now keep in mind, this only restricts you into number monsters while it's on the field. So as soon as you make that XYZ summon, you opened up back again. So it's just another way of getting a stronger, more protected Diablos or one of your other number monsters that you'll be using to interrupt your opponent or producing OTK plays. The last monster that we play that isn't a hand trap is, of course, single, I wish it was triple, Dino Prankatops. Now, the reason that you play this is because of Birth. You can normal summon it even if your opponent, going first, so it just becomes an additional form of interruption. That being said, going second as well, it is just a free summon that allow you to continue plays. Keep in mind that the Kashtiras all share the same effects, that if you control no monsters, you get to special summon them. Whereas Prankatops is if your opponent controls more monsters than you. So if your opponent controls 2 monsters, you get to special summon down Fenrir for free, and then you'll get to special summon down Prankatops for free, and that gives you 2 forms of interruption should they activate a monster effect at all. Then for the hand traps, we are playing Triple D Shifter because we can, and it is incredibly powerful in this deck because you don't care about any of your cards getting banished. For the other hand traps, we play Triple Ash Blossom and Triple Imperm, purely because these are the cards that don't care. They just need to be discarded. Whereas with D-Shifter and Dimensional Fissure, a lot of hand traps actually become dead. So stuff like DD Crow, Drown Lockbird, and Effect Veiler, just to name a few, have to specifically go to the graveyard. So they won't be able to be activated because they need to be able to hit their destination for cost, which they won't do under D-Fissure. So very important that. Not to mention as well, Ash Blossom does provide additional spice because you can literally, if you're pushing for an OTK play and you've banished a load of cards, you can special summon down any Kashtira monster, normal summon Ash Blossom, Synchro into a level 10, and that level 10 can be a defender or it can go all the way into an aggressor, which is really, really good. And then Imperm is to deal with the Flunder matchup because Barrier Statue. But keep in mind as well, Unicorn is a wind. So one thing you can get away with is Unicorn special summons itself, uses effect to search out Birth. Birth will then, as long as you've got another Kashtira monster, you can actually normal summon it rather than special summon it, and then that's how you get rid of the Barrier Statue. Not to mention you can go into Fortress, Draco Sack, and Draco Sack, because it's a wind, will allow you to pop the Penguin, will allow you to pop the Barrier Statue, and then all you need to do is attack with another XYZ, do all your special summon plays without conducting your battle phase, and then go into a Zeus once you have done. So it gives you a lot of ways to play around with it, and that's why stuff like Imperms and Ashes and everything else is really, really cool. Moving on to the spells. So for the spells we are playing, of course, now back to 3. Keep in mind this profile is coming out before the 1st of December, but this is post the ban list. Triple Dimensional Fissure. Like any monster sent to the graveyard is banished instead. Keep in mind when they're detached as a material from an XYZ, they are actually an XYZ unit, not a monster, so they won't get banished. So it kind of gives you the benefit of both worlds. You could play macro if you want to, but especially if you're playing against a tier matchup, being able to just go activate this, you're free to play and do whatever they need to. They really will struggle against this. So that's really, really cool. Then we've got Triple Instant Contact. Now, I did see a very spicy tech involving Spirit of Neos on Airfare Play Gaming. So check out their profile. And basically, they were using Spirit of Neos at 2 and then this at 2. And then what it worked with was when your opponent declares an attack, you special summon the Spirit of Neos for free. And then when it's summoned, it can't be destroyed by battle. And then it also gets to search you out a monster that lists Elemental Hero by name. And this one obviously lists Elemental Hero Neos. So you then get the ability to search this out, meaning that the next turn, without conducting a normal summon, you've got a guaranteed rank 7 play. The only issue with that, quite like if you are playing the Buy-Steal engine as well, is all of the Kashtiras don't want you to have a monster on the board. You actually need a clear board to get maximum value out of them. So yes, it is a cool route of play, but it is one that can hold you back a little bit as well. We've then got Triple Pot of Prosperity. Some people will play Sacred Sword of 7, which is definitely very well playable, because what makes this really cool is you could special summon Fenrir. Fenrir searches out Unicorn. You activate Sacred Sword of 7, banish the Fenrir, and then special summon down a Unicorn, search out Birth. Birth activates the effect to bring back the Fenrir. So that's kind of like a really cool interaction, because Sword does hand or field, and I think that's a really cool kind of play. The reason we play Prosperity is because you want to be digging for the stuff like your Dimension Fissures, your Births, your Board Breakers if you need them in the form of Forbidden Droplet, but I'll talk to these in a minute. And then just pretty much searching out whatever you want to. You can also play the Adventure Package. You can play Rivalry if you want to, because your main Kashtiras are all Psychics, and then the 2 main XYZs you're going to go into, Mind Hacker and Shangri-La, are both Psychics as well. So you can really up the level of control with this deck. For board breakers, it's just having ways of being able to play going second. Now, Forbidden Drop is a bit of a gamble right now because if people are main decking Defissure or you activate Defissure, keep in mind you can't send monsters from anywhere because they have to be sent as cost and they have to go to the graveyard with Droplet. So Defissure means they won't be able to go to graveyard, meaning you can only send spells and or the odd trap that you may have. So this can be a little bit difficult under Defissure, which is where Chalice might come into play. But on the flip side as well, you could also use something like Lava Golem, and you can also use Dark Ruler, but less so Dark Ruler because many of the boards are able to kind of eat a Dark Ruler and then rebuild. So it really comes down to personal preference of what you want these last two slots to be, but they are pretty much just set there to be board breaking cards in order to kind of, you know, deal with any go second boards as well. Moving on to the extra deck, we'll start off with let's start with the Link monsters. So the only Link monsters that we play is IP Masquerena into BLS Soldier of Chaos, purely because IP will only go into BLS, but there are just ways where you can make BLS with IP with a level 7 as well, so it kind of like can't be targeted, can't be destroyed. It's an insane mini towers in a sense. Really kind of cool options, and if you're able to keep bumping up its attack, it becomes even more difficult to deal with. It's just an option. Like the extra deck is completely flexible. You have so many spots that you can, in theory, kind of like change if you want to. It's entirely up to you. We've got 2 level 10 Synchros using the combo that I mentioned before. So like special summon any Kashtira, normal summon Ash, go into either one of these. Now obviously the Sword Salt is going to be a little bit more for later games because if you've already set up Defissure and you've banished a lot already, you're pretty much set to make this a Mac Daddy that can clear stuff off. And then you're going to constantly be able to banish stuff with Defissure up as well. I mean, you can trigger the effects to get rid of whatever else is floating around in your opponent's graveyard, like the spells and traps, and then one on the field. Baron is then going to be a way of being able to be an Omni Negate, not to mention it does have that additional effect that, again, under Defissure, uses this effect to pop a card will actually mean it's going to get banished as well. Moving on to the XYZs, so we'll start off with the non-numbers first. So you start off with the one Shangri-La. So this card's incredibly powerful, especially when you combo it off with Darkest Diablos. I call it Darkest Diablos, but it's not really, it's the Mind Hacker. But when you combo these two off, it's incredibly powerful. So the way this works, ideally what you want to do is you want to get Shangri-La first and then Diablos, because then Shangri-La, if a monster in your opponent's, if a card in your opponent's possession, so hand, field, extra deck, graveyard, you name it, is banished face down, you can choose an unused main monster zone or spell and trap zone and lock it while this card is face up on the field. So the only time, even if they Dark Ruler you or negate the effects at a later stage, the only way that they get their zones back is if this leaves the field or is flipped face down. So under a Dark Ruler, they still stay. Now the reason this is so good is because with the Diabolos, the Mind Hacker, this one has an effect that you can look at your opponent's extra deck, banish one card from it face down. That will then trigger the Shangri-La. That will lock a zone. It will then trigger the second effect of Diablos, which means if your opponent, a card in your opponent's possession is banished face down, you can banish cards from the top of the deck equal to face down, equal to the number of cards banished face down already, which will then trigger Shangri-La to lock out a second zone. So if you're still hanging with me, that is already 2 zones locked out. It's absolutely crazy. And then depending on what else you can do, when you've got stuff like Fenris, Unicorns, everything like that, constantly being able to banish stuff face down and then be able to trigger the effect of Shangri-La to lock out more zones is absolutely mental. And there is a combo that will ultimately allow you to lock out 4 zones. So if you lock out all of your opponent's monster zones and they're not playing, it's like really, really powerful. The other non-number monsters that we do play, or XYZs that we play, of course, are the Draco Sack. So like I said, in the Flunder matchup, this is really important. Red Eyes Flare. Again, these are all flexible, like any rank 7s, but these are pretty much just the best rank 7s I've been able to find that I feel serve the purpose of what we need. The other one as well that not many people play, but I highly advise playing if you're playing the instant contact version. It's a little bit difficult to make because it needs 2 level 7 waters, but you've got 1 in your Aquaneos and then you've got 1 in your Ogre. But what this does is it gives you a blanket negate during a player's turn. You get to detach a material and then negate the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent currently controls. So it's really important because it's the only one of the rank 7s, as you can see, that lets you trigger an effect during your opponent's turn through your own control. Like, Shangri-La will trigger during the standby phase and it will trigger when something is banished face down. So will Mind Hacker. Draco Sack just has protection. This will burn on resolution, whereas this is the only one that you can go, right, okay, they activate something, chain effect when you want to, and it can be very, very powerful. The other fusion that we play is the Fire Neos, and it's just because I like having water and fire. There's no real reason. You can play any level 7s you want. You'd only play the water one if you're planning to get into this one. And then the final cards to go through is, of course, Zeus, because you play all these XYZs. And then for the other numbers, you've got Titanic Moth, so be able to attack directly for half damage and then burn your opponent for 500 for every card in their hand. Really important. Big Eye, still one of their monsters if you want to use it to link climb up or anything else. And then, of course, the Harmonizing. This is really cool to use graveyard interaction because you get to steal one of your opponent's monsters that are in the graveyard, attach it to this as a material. And this card is unaffected by monsters with the same attribute as those that this has as material and itself. So it counts as every attribute that's attached to it. So if I make this, for example, with a fire and a water, this card will be unaffected by fire, water, and lights. And if I steal one of my opponent's darks, then it's protected from that as well. Yes, you will detach a material in order to steal one, but not only are you technically like called by the grave in taking control of it, but you're also then being able to protect it from that particular type of attribute, especially if your opponent is playing a mono attribute deck. However, when we get the new support, stuff like this will completely change. You might consider taking out the Harmonizer, you might take out Big Eye, you might not even rely on the Synchro package, you might not even rely on these, because there are ways where you lock yourself into XYZs from the extra deck as well, but it's still a really cool deck. Fenrir's did start to dip before the ban list kind of came. Unfortunately, it's now started to creep back up a little bit. But if you're able to pick these up cheaply or you already have them, I highly advise picking up the rest of the deck because it will be a meta deck come February next year. And I think it is very powerful and very fun to play. So it's going to be a very good counter for the upcoming meta as well. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, guys, as absolutely always, stay safe. And of course, happy dueling.